Hey everyone, welcome back to Open. Our last guest is a multi-published New York poet and educator at Urban Word NYC and DreamYard. Her work consists of stories of highly personal experiences transformed into a shared communal intimacy while also exploring racism, sexism, domestic violence, and intersectionality. Here now to tell us more is multi-published poet and educator Carlita Field-Hernandez. Hello and welcome.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on a la Zoom. Eventually we're going to be heading back into studio. So we look forward to having you on in person as we all gradually make our way back into each other's actual personal space, which brings me to, wow, I'm sure you must have written a lot of work throughout the past 2.5 years.
Yeah, it definitely was challenging because I'm sure, as you're aware of, as everyone's aware of, is that time didn't really exist during lockdown and stuff. Still doesn't really exist all the time. But it definitely created a new strain of poetry for me.
Really? It impacted your flow, your choice of topics, just share more about that.
I mean, honestly, probably the biggest difference was I'm used to performing on stage. I'm used to performing in person. And there is like this give and take with an audience where, I feel like it kind of feeds me more because I am a shy person, even though that doesn't make sense because I reveal my innermost being on a stage in front of like hundreds and hundreds of people. But I am a shy person. And I feel like what would happen when I was on stage with people, it's kind of like, it became like one big blob and I was just kind of like me and them and just too much for me to even like be able to focus on people. But what would happen with the computer is that suddenly it's just silent. The room is silent and stuff like that. And it's just me staring at me. And I had to kind of switch things up because there's some poems that I have where it's like what makes it hit more and what makes the lines hit more is the reaction that the audience kind of gives me and stuff like that with it. And it just kind of adds to the poem. And then I'd go to do those same poems that scored really well at slams or like were really good with audience members. And it suddenly just didn't hit the same, me performing it over Zoom.
Yeah, no. I'm vibing with you. I get it, right? Because there's like this like invisible energetic exchange that happens in even though you're using words to communicate, there's another form of communication that kind of gets lost in translation, like in this form, right? Especially when you're pouring your heart out because your work it's very personal.
Yes, it's all very, very personal. I actually so with Urban Word, like you mentioned before, that's an organization that I work with New York City, where they place me in different schools and like after school programs or student programs in general throughout New York City. And recently I had to do a performance at a middle school just to kind of give like the kids there like kind of like a feel of like, okay, this is what spoken word is, this is what Urban Word can do for you. And then for me, I did that performance. And then the following week I did a workshop for them to kind of learn how to do spoken word. That was the first time that I had performed since COVID, and it was
2019.
No, the last time I performed was literally right before the world ended. It was March 2020.
I know
the first week of March 2020. And honestly, I should have known because we kept joking, like me and the other people before, we were joking around calling it Legends Night. And it's because these really big players in spoken word and stuff like that, like people on like the national slam team and stuff like that, were all there. And it was this beautiful experience where it's like, I wish I had some type of footage of like how I performed, how they performed or whatever. But it was like, I feel like everyone just kind of forgot because it was just so intense. It was
I'm sure
probably
somebody has to have footage of that. And
someone
you know,
I don't know.
well,
Like,
let's cross our fingers somebody does, because God knows these times, like everything for me as far as anything that occurred during this COVID era has a stronger historical value, because look at where we are in 2022, and we're still kind of navigating through it.
oh yeah,
And yeah,
that yeah, like I actually that's the so some of my middle school kids, I taught them how to, I was their slam coach. I taught them how to do poetry slams and stuff. And we actually, with DreamYard, they competed in this poetry slam throughout like different middle schools in the Bronx and stuff. And
okay, but you're saying this was done in person recently, right?
yeah, this was in person recently, but the slam itself had to be via Zoom. It was just me in the classroom or whatever. But what my point was is they wanted to see some of my stuff. I need to get people to record me more when I do these things, because the only ones that I'm aware of that are on the internet, or that I've kind of put on myself because they're the only videos I have, I'm reading from a phone or I'm reading from a book or something, which is like the two things that I told my kids they couldn't do. So they were just like, but what is this? And I was just like, do as I say, not as I do. Like, if anything, I did use one of the videos that's on YouTube of me, because I started stuttering because my, even though I had the poem memorized, I was on my phone and the phone, timed out like it does. And it freezed me up and it made me mess up. So I used that and I was like, see, this is why we don't use cell phones. Oh my gosh. I'm sure there's other videos of me out there on the internet somewhere that, like, if I run for office for some reason, it'll probably resurface. But I'm not aware of it. So like with that last slam before the world ended, I'm sure someone has a video somewhere of it. If they do, I'd love to meet them.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. That's funny. And we're out of time, but I know you're going to be performing for us, and I want to thank you for sharing that story about the next generation and how you're teaching them to do as you say, not as you do.
Oh yeah.
Terrible. That's like an old saying. And so what I want to say to our audience is now you guys have to stay tuned to see whether she's going to do as she says.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh. All right, so that was Carlita Field-Hernandez. Don't go anywhere, because when we return, she's going to perform for us.